We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. You are listening to this on Thursday, and this is being recorded Tuesday night because I'll be on the road. I'm going to Portland, Maine with family on Thursday morning, and I won't be able to record a podcast. So, somebody we haven't heard from for a while, who is also on the road, is Old Soul. And Old Soul, tell us where you are right now.
Japan, where my honey moved to or got pushed out of America because, you know. But yeah, so we're here getting settled with the girls and stuff, and then in a couple of weeks I'll head back home.
So how you acclimating over there? How you like the whole culture and the whole country, the way it's run?
It's good, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's like my honey, he accidentally offended his coworkers. Well, he has coworkers that are like came from America, have visas and stuff, so they know the culture. So he was sick, and he just got up and went to work. And I remember putting in his bag like his little cough drops and stuff to get him through the day. And like I looked up a couple hours later, and he was back home because A, why are you coming to work sick trying to get the rest of us sick? And B, why the heck are you walking around with no mask on? And so they understood it, but some of them were like really offended by that. Like, if you sick, stay at home. Why are you at work? Like, that was like something that he had to adjust to. Um, like the first day, I got up early, I packed the girls' day lunches and stuff like that, and I didn't realize that that's kind of like offensive because it's like they're coming to school, like we're taking care of them for the day, we feed them. Why are you sending lunch to school with them? So like the school, they had to tell me that. My neighbor, she was kind of like giving me the like, this is what we do normally or naturally, but that's not done here. And so like sending them to school with a lunch, sending them to school with certain things, it's like you don't do that because it's kind of like you don't trust them with your children if you're doing extra stuff, I guess. But that's
Well,
stuff that we're just kind of used to doing here. You know what I mean?
it's kind of weird that you're getting pushed back on going home when you're sick and feeding the
Yeah.
kids at school. You come from America, the largest country in the world, and that seems like extra that you would get from America if that were to occur. And in Japan, it's just common day occurrence, and they would be insulted if you thought they would do otherwise. That's kind of a nice thing, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And like to send your kids to school with lunch, like we can feed them. Why are you why are you packing them lunch? Or do you not think our food is good enough? Or, that kind of stuff. But their food is, I was able to like go and like hang out with them for a day and stuff. And the food is like, it's like fresh, fresh. Like they are like cooking it right there. And it's like fresh. It's like a well balanced plate and all that other kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool to see how they get to eat every day. I'm like, I'm at home and I'm not even eating like that every day. So it was pretty cool. They like it. I learned not to do that. My honey learned that you can go to work if you got maybe like the sniffles or something, but you need to have your mask on, keep your area disinfected, don't be around other people. Um, but like if you're sick and you're just like grunting trying to go to work, they don't want you to go to work and get other people sick. And on top of that, they look at it as it's going to affect your productivity because you just pushing through hours trying to get through the day when you really don't need to be there, kind of stuff. I don't know. That was kind of different, but I liked it.
It's kind of interesting that a country like Japan can do this without a thought, and we have to fight for that kind of shit in this country, in America. That maybe tells you that if a country smaller in terms of Japan can pull this off without a problem, so can we. It's not about whether we can do it, it's about whether or not certain people give a fuck about doing that for their people or for their kids.
Yeah, and if people will back them up in doing that, because you see, like on the news, like a lot of people are conditioned to think that stuff like that means that you're lazy. Stuff like that means that you don't want to work. You shouldn't have a job if you're going to call in sick. So it's kind of people are conditioned to think that. And so they don't vote for politicians who feel that the American people don't need to work themselves to death. Like working yourself to death is kind of like part of the American culture. Like they want you to retire when you're 75, 80 years old now, whatever they're trying to push it to. And then, you get a good 10 years. And then when you do retire, they don't want to help you live a healthy life until you're gone. You're
Right.
going to suffer and grunt through it and paycheck to paycheck and being on a fixed income and all that other kind of stuff. Like, it's a different quality of life. Um, I don't really know how to explain it, but looking at it from the outside in, it's just a completely different quality of life. And it doesn't have to be that way. But people are conditioned to think that that's how it should be. I looked at it like that. Like, that's kind of how it is.
Well, that's kind of the conditioning we get from Republicans. All brown people coming from other countries are criminals and rapists and that sort of thing. All people of color are on welfare. Here's the thing. I know this is the one thing that's on your mind pretty heavily as you hear the stories coming out of America. We're in the middle of a government shutdown. That causes all kinds of problems. But the big news about this government shutdown is the likelihood of the SNAP program
Ugh,
not happening in November. There's 42 million people. There's 42 million people that are on SNAP, and the largest majority of people on SNAP are white people.
yeah.
But for some reason, Republicans think it's not going to touch them. This has got to be a concerning time for you because you're all about feeding people that need food, and you're going back in a couple of weeks, and in a couple of weeks, we could be in the middle of some shit.
Yeah. We did. We got a permit. We had to like go to the embassy and everything to protest for like No King's Day. We didn't have like a huge turnout like I saw that you guys have, but we had like 312 people or something like that there.
Right.
And we made a lot of noise. It was cool. But one of the things that we were talking about is, when you are under a dictatorship, your quality of life is not, it's like it's bad now, but it's going to get worse the further on
Right.
that this goes. And that, you know, Trump is like openly talking about these are Democrat programs. Your Medicare, your Medicaid, your SNAP. I saw him say today, those are going away and they're not coming back. Like he is openly saying, I'm going to take everything for myself and my friends. And you guys, if you get crumbs, you're lucky. He's openly saying that. And so I think about, children being hungry. Like I know their parents are MAGA and they voted for Trump, but those children didn't ask for that. They don't want to be in this situation that their parents put them here. So I think for me, that's the hardest part is knowing that children are going to suffer. And it's too many children for me to feed. So I just have to hope that their parents wake up enough to fight for them the way that I would fight for them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, um, I would not be surprised if Donald Trump does all the things he says he's going to do just out of cruelty. But I think you know as well as I know when we're talking about a narcissist, when it comes to getting what they want, a win or whatever it is, they will say anything. And the
Yeah.
more egregious and the more threatening, they will say it. They will say it every time. So as he's pulling this out of, first of all, saying he's going to get rid of the SNAP program, which he can't legally do, and get rid of it permanently, he can't do that either. But he can certainly disrupt it. And in that disruption, we're going to have a lot of people not having the food they're accustomed to having. Um,
Yeah.
but
And he
but
doesn't care.
don't you get the sense that Donald Trump, when he is going this far overboard, doesn't
Mhm.
it feel like, in your experience with narcissists, my experience with narcissists, this is a tipping point for him or a glitch for him because he's out there flailing at the biggest, most egregious things. That's usually what happens before the crash of a narcissist.
Um, that's usually what happens. However, there are people around him that's preventing that self-destruction. So typically, like with a narcissist, they're doing all this crap. It's like they have a bunch of balls in the air and they can't possibly juggle all of that. So sooner or later, some stuff starts falling and dropping and hitting the ground. And then when
Right.
that happens, they get frustrated, that mask slips and people get to see who they are. But right now, Donald Trump has a bunch of balls in the air. But before that can hit the ground, Mike Johnson is there scooping it up. Kristi Noem is there scooping it up. They are like running interference for him. They're picking it up anytime he fumbles the ball. Like they are there preventing that full blown narcissistic collapse. Because if they weren't doing that, he would have been collapsed. So I
Yeah.
think in this situation it's different because he doesn't really have a bottom. You know what I mean? Like there's cushion there. He's not falling and hitting the ground like he needs to.
Well, that's why I keep telling people, people keep saying, how can he keep doing this? How can he get away with it if it's not legal? How can he
Yeah.
keep getting away with it? And this is what I want to remind people every day. If you're looking for somebody to blame for Donald Trump and his actions, there's only one group of people, the one group of people that could stop this, the one
Yep.
group of people that is perpetuating this, and that is all Republicans in
Yep.
Congress. All
Each and every
Republicans in Congress have the power to shut it down today, and they've chose not to. So if you're suffering and Donald Trump is dead or out of office or whatever, and you want to find accountability, every Republican in Congress.
yeah, even those ones when they're like, oh, Rand Paul, he said this, he said that. But and Marjorie Taylor Greene does the same thing. They have qualifiers. So they will say, we don't agree with the government shutdown, but they will never say, or they'll say Mike Johnson needs to call us back into session, but they will never say Donald Trump needs to tell Mike Johnson to call us back into session because they know that if Donald Trump tells him to do it, he will do it. They never say that Donald Trump bill is cutting this, and that. They're saying, I don't agree with certain portions of the bill. So they're kind of like straddling the fence to where they will slightly speak up, but they will not call him out by name. And then there's always qualifiers. So you'll hear Marjorie Taylor Greene like, Donald Trump just did the biggest peace deal in American history, and he's the greatest thing ever on the planet, and I'm American first, and I'm this, and I'm that. But we really, really need to, look out for health insurance for our kids. And we need, like, she has to fluff him up before she puts a criticism out there, and she won't even mention him by name. And Rand Paul and any other kind of like moderate type of Republican, they all do the same thing. So they're not taking a hard stance. For me, they're not really standing up. They're just kind of like bitching a little bit, but they're not going to do anything about it.
I'm curious. I was curious. You're an American, you're a woman of color, and you're in
Mm-hmm.
Japan.
Yeah.
When people realize you're from America, how do they respond to you in Japan? What do they ask you, and how do they treat you?
Um, they feel really sad, basically, because they have connections or family in America as well. But I think most of it is just, it comes from confusion. Like, why is he still in office? Why haven't you guys kicked him out yet? Why are
Good
you letting
question.
this go? Why is people still supporting him? Why this? Why that? Like, it's a lot of whys, and I don't have the answer to any of those questions except for ignorance, racism, and a lot of disinterested and uninterested people. So it really does have to affect them first before they even care. Basically, very, very selfish country is how I look at it.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious. You live in Las Vegas in America.
Mm.
Um, like everybody of color, they deal with racism day in and day out. White people don't get it. They don't understand that it exists because they're fucking white people. How is the race issue handled, or what do you experience in Japan as a black woman in a country that's mostly Asian folks?
I feel more comfortable than I did in America.
Really?
I think kind of like what I've been noticing, and maybe it's just because of the bubble that I'm in, where we're like a lot of immigrants and like visa holders and like military families and stuff, right?
All
Um,
right.
it's kind of like they go out of their way to make sure that we don't think they're racist and feel uncomfortable. But that could just be the bubble that I'm in because I'm pretty much in like an immigrant military area. So that's it could be a different experience. I can't comment on that. And we were doing like the No Kings protest. These are like people who have connections to America, and we're all like witnessing the same thing and have like those same fears and those same worries. So we were bonded over that. So it really wasn't an issue. We were just trying to bring awareness and attention to what's going on and also show support that even though we're not there with you, we can still stand with you and support you from a distance. You know what I mean?
We should probably tell folks why you're in Japan. You told the story before on the podcast, but you should tell it again. And I know it's not a comfortable conversation for you, but you've had a willingness to talk about it. What your circumstances are, why you're in Japan right now, and what this means to you going forward.
Yeah, they Trump did that executive order with the H-1 visas where companies would have to pay $100,000 a year for having immigrant workers. And he was here on like an engineering tech visa, and they wanted they were okay with people from Africa, South Africa, where he was from, to come here with those visas, but they wanted the white South Africans, not the black South Africans. And my honey
That's
is a
not
black,
racist.
right? So my honey is, and you know, Elon Musk is like wanting to bring them here and place them here in certain companies and certain positions. So my honey's boss was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay that. And if I'm not going to be able to pay that, then I'm going to replace you guys with the white South Africans so that I don't have to pay that $100,000 fee. And he was prolonging it and delaying it. And I was just like waiting for to see what he's going to do, which way it's going to go. It's just easier to just to go ahead and leave because he had another job offer on the table. So let's just take it and leave because we can't count on this situation. And people don't realize in that executive order, Trump gets to decide which companies he charge and which companies he don't charge. So if you want to keep your black and brown immigrants, you're going to have to pay this fee. But if you get rid of your black and brown immigrants and you take in the white immigrants, then you don't have to pay this fee. And so that's why we left. People miss that part of the executive order. They think that all companies with immigrants are going to have to pay $100,000. And that's not true. They only have to pay that if they take the immigrants that the government wants them to take.
And your significant other had no problem finding another job pretty quickly in another country. There is demand for his engineering skills, and it's a
Yeah.
sad day that we as a country are losing valuable people to other countries because of the stupid shit that Donald Trump is doing.
Yeah. The neighbors that were, yeah, I would say she's a friend. Like we kick it all the time. But my neighbor, she's an American, and her husband and their children, they came here because the grant program that they had, they'd like do medical technology, so different like cancer screening devices and stuff like that. That grant and that program was taken away from them. And so they ended up getting an offer to move here, and they would invest in those medical technologies that they're researching. So that's why they're here. So it's kind of crazy because he had that job offer like 90 days before the executive order came down, and we passed on it. And then a couple of his coworkers, they actually took the offer, so they were already here. And I don't know if it's like word of mouth or how they're tracking it or what, but other countries, they are reaching out to immigrants and they are giving them like sign-on bonuses, like a really nice sign-on bonus that my honey got, like nice housing and really, really nice accommodations. Like, hey, bring your scientific smart brains and your technology and your medical background. Bring that here. We'll look out for you. And so that's what's happening right now.
Well, and I'm going to bring up the tough part of this only because I want to people to understand that what Donald Trump is doing is not just a financial thing. People,
No.
and not just a starvation thing. You are in Japan essentially getting your significant other and his kids set up, help to get set up and uh, established there. But you have a life back in the United States. So you have a
Yeah.
close relationship with this man, great
And the girl.
future, and the girls. And now you've got to set that up in Japan just for their own survival. And now you have to go back to Las Vegas. So a young couple that hopefully has some future has to split apart because of the
Yeah.
stupid shit that Donald Trump is doing. And that's the thing that people have to understand. What you see Donald Trump doing is only part of it. It's how it's
Yeah.
affecting actual people that you have to get and understand how egregious it is.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because that one is hard because it's kind of being split between two places. And I was like, I didn't look at it like this until I was messaging TJ back and forth. And I was like telling myself that we have it easy because we have the opportunity to leave and keep him safe, especially with ICE running around everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, it could be worse for us. Like he could go to work one day and not come home. They don't care if he has a visa. They don't care if he's here legally, and then he has his two daughters. So it's safer for them in another country. But it could be a situation where he leaves and he doesn't come back. Or we go to pick up the girls and they've disappeared or he's disappeared. So we could be torn apart like we see other immigrant or any mixed families torn apart. There's a lot of mixed families that's being torn apart right now. So I'm feeling lucky that we're not torn apart. And TJ was just kind of like, yeah, but you are torn apart
Yeah.
because he's going to be in Japan, you're going to be in America. So just because he's not like in a detention center doesn't mean that you guys are not being torn apart. I didn't look at it like that until TJ said it because I was just so busy trying to like comfort myself and try to get through it. But once he said that, I'm like, yeah, we really are being affected like other immigrants. It's just not as bad as what they're going through.
Yeah, I mean, some people are going through horrific things, but still, you guys being split apart. Now, I presume that you're looking at this as a potentially a temporary situation because, Donald Trump could keel over tomorrow and the 2026 elections and such.
Yeah.
Um, so, are you going to go back to Las Vegas, maybe come back to Japan now and again, or him? Well, he probably won't come back to America. That would be crazy.
Not I wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to come back right now.
I don't
Um,
think I would. I don't think I would suggest any immigrant to come to the United States.
yeah, I have other responsibilities, but the responsibilities primarily that I have is because of this administration. So if it wasn't
Right.
so bad, we did have our community is a lot of children, a lot of seniors, and it's about to get really bad for them. So I have to be there. But if that wasn't the situation, I gotta be honest with you, I wouldn't mind staying where I'm at. It's a
Staying in
lot
Japan.
easier. Yeah, the dollar goes a lot further here, if that makes sense.
So maybe
It's a
down the
really
road, if things
I've
get better in the US, you might move to Japan.
Yeah, even if it's like I'm staying here until it's safe for him to come back, or if he found like another job equally, um, we could come back together. That would be possible. I think right now it's best to just kind of play it by ear and plan visits and when I can go and come back because he can't go and come back. I have a best
Yeah.
friend in the UK. Her daughter can't come to America and visit and go back. So it's up to me being able to make carve outs for people that I care about.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for your situation. But like you say, you've got a lot of things going for you and you're young, so you've got a great future. So let's just assume that it's going to go well ultimately, and this will be um, a very dramatic story to tell to your grandkids.
Um, you know what? I got a lot of stories to tell them kids. This would be like the least
That's
of the
true.
dream.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's true. I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in this country. You brought up a couple of things. First of all, you brought up a story where Donald Trump is either suing or begging for $230 million from the DOJ. Maybe you can expand on that for us because I didn't read the whole thing.
Yeah, so he said that. So it's not like a lawsuit, it's a demand for the $230 million. And the basis of it is basically like malicious prosecution under the Biden administration. In there, he was talking about being targeted, like normally all his regular rambling crap. Um, and then I remembered, like, I heard him saying at one point, like, I think he was given one of those weird press conferences that he does. And it, like,
Yeah.
you could see the light bulb popping on when he's like, hey, that'll just be like me paying myself. And now he's getting ready to pay himself because if anybody thinks that the DOJ is going to tell him no, or if the DOJ is going to settle with him, like 230 million isn't like we're going to start and negotiate down. That's a demand. That's what he wants. That's what he's asking for. $250 million. Um, yeah, he's just going to pay himself $250 million because he was being held accountable, but not being held accountable. Because last I checked, that mofo didn't spend a night in jail. He didn't go through the proper booking process. He was never handcuffed. He only got one mug shot out of how many felony charges and arrests. So
Yeah.
I really don't have any more words beyond that. So I'll just go based off of what you said because I am kind of speechless at the boldness of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think what he's doing, how when somebody attacks him, then he has
Man.
to attack back harder. Now, you understand that what's going on with James Comey, one of the claims that the lawyer is making about what Donald Trump is doing to James Comey is malicious prosecution. So
Yeah,
he's trying to one up them, or at least that gave him the idea to try to do this. I mean, it's all ridiculous. I would like to say I'd be surprised if Pam Bondi and the DOJ just handed over $230 million, but we've seen crazier shit happen. We've seen
that's what
crazier shit.
they're gonna give it to him.
Yeah, they probably will give it to him. But here's what's interesting, and it leads us to the next story we were talking about. $230 million. That's a
Mhm.
lot of money. That's a very specific amount of money. I don't know how he got that figure. Unless it has something to do um, with
The
his
ball.
current shit show with building the ballroom and tearing down the East Wing. And that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be what, 230,
Yeah,
250 million? Isn't that
yeah.
coincidental how that all ties in? And he
You
said
know,
he said there's no tax dollars going to the ballroom. It's all private donors. Well, let's see the names. Let's see who they were. And I don't know if this is true or not.
hmm,
Not only did he tear down the East Wing, he's talking about a ballroom for 90,000 square feet.
yeah,
And that is apparently as big or bigger than the fucking White House.
right.
So it's like building a building behind the White House that's just the same size. That's crazy.
Um, like logically, when I look at it as through the lens of a psycho, is it makes sense because Donald Trump goes like all over the world, and he sees the dictators and the oligarchs and their huge palaces and their big fancy ballrooms and that's what he wants for himself. He doesn't want to have a people's house. Like, why do you need a people's house when you are the king? And everybody comes and kisses your butt and does what you tell them to do. You want your big ballrooms where your millionaire buddies can come and hang out and swoon over you. Donald Trump never was accepted by the upper echelons of America. They pretty much stayed away from him. They made fun of him. They talked about him behind his back. Like they knew he was a pervert. They knew he was an idiot. They knew he was bad with money, to say the least. Like he couldn't even do business with banks in America, right? He had to go to the Russians for that. So the people that rejected him, it's not like he really wants to be accepted by them. He just kind of wants to say, hey, you rejected me. Look where I'm at now. Look what I can
Yeah.
do. Look what I got. And at the same time, shake them down. Because if you don't give me money, if you don't give me 10% of your stock, your company is going to go under. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
he wants to see him as all powerful and this great being. And then You need the accessories to that, right? You need the big plane, you need the big ballroom, you need the fancy, I don't even like castle. I guess that's what he's trying to build. Sorry, my phone. This big castle that he's trying to build and all that other kind of stuff. That's where his focus is, and that's what he wants to do. The American people just don't fit into that equation. So that 200, like, we're not going to pay with our tax money $230 million. That would be crazy. He's just going to sue the government and take the tax money that we pay the government and take his $230 million. For me, just eliminate the middleman and just take your $230 million. Why do you have to put the Justice Department as your middleman where you could, I don't know, wash your money through? just take it. You're gonna take it any damn way.
Well, the thing about it is that I think it's starting to piss off Republicans as much as Democrats. Donald Trump said specifically that this ballroom wouldn't be touching the White House, wouldn't disrupt the White House. And then all of a sudden, we start seeing these pictures of him tearing down the East Wing, which is the wing for the First Lady, as I understand it. But tearing down the East Wing, in spite of the fact he said he would do nothing to touch that. People in the Treasury Department are right across the way. Some people took pictures and sent them off to the press. And now he says, no more pictures. We don't want people seeing this. But it's the
That's
people's house. The question is, how is he able to do this? And I have an answer for it again. How is he able to do this? Because in order to make those kind of changes to the White House, it has to go through Congress. Yet he's got a
yeah.
wrecking ball there right now. Why can he do that? I think we both know the answer.
The thing is, Republicans are not. They're not going to stand up to him, and they're not going to tell him no. And he knows that, and he understands that. And I would take it a step further. I think at this point, well, it could be one of two reasons. He could be delusional and think that they are afraid of him and that they're that like admiring of him that and that they are afraid of him so that they will never do it, or he knows the truth. And I am the face right now of what's going on. And they get to do whatever they want to do behind closed doors, and I get to do all my vanity projects. I get to murder people, whatever my heart desires. That's what I get to do. So it's kind of like he knows that he has an agreement with them. Do Project 2025 behind closed doors, and let me just put on the face and the pompous and the show and all of that other kind of stuff. So he either knows that's what it is, or he's delusional enough to think that they are afraid of him.
Yeah, and and as I've said before, when this is all said and done, and the messes need to be cleaned up, and it costs a lot of money and time, and who knows when we'll be able to rectify all the problems Donald Trump made after he's no more. People will be
Yeah.
looking for culprits from this situation, and I'll say it again: it's very clearly the Republicans in Congress. They could stop this. Congress is supposed to be able to dictate tariffs. Congress is supposed to dictate changes to the White House. They're
Yeah.
supposed to dictate a lot of things, but the Republicans have ceded power to Donald Trump. Once a co equal branch of government is now a co opted branch of government by Donald Trump. And that is not an element of fucking democracy. So, just in that realm, we don't have a democracy. And then you throw in the Supreme Court, which is also co opted. We are in the middle of a dictatorship, in spite of what everybody wants to think. That doesn't mean we
Mm-hmm.
can't fight our way out of it, but we're in
Yeah.
it right now. It's not coming, or it's not a maybe, it's here.
Yeah. We're not on the verge of it. Like, that's something that we are actively living through. And it's so angering. It's like all the emotions. Like, you're angry, you're sad, you want to fight, you want to cry. Like, you really don't know what to do. I think for me, it's like trying to process it from the outside, looking in, and like looking and seeing exactly how bad it is. It's a little different, like when I was at home and I was in the thick of it. But on the outside, looking in, it's like, dang, this is really, really, really bad. Like, this is full blown authoritarianism. Like, straight up, we are like living through Project 2025 right now.
I just don't understand how Republicans don't realize that this
They do.
can't last forever and that they are going to be crucified and made accountable for this stuff. Their lives, their careers are going to be over because they will be tied to this disaster that Donald Trump is putting on this country. Are they so short-sighted that I just got to befriend and help out Trump now so I can get all I want now and then the hell with the future? I don't know what they could possibly be thinking.
Um, I used to look at it like that, and I used to look at it as like a numbers game, kind of how the way Eric looks at it.
Right.
When they realize that they're going to lose their elections, when they realize that the people are turning on them, like at that point, like they're trying to say, when is it going to be safe for me to like pull away? And I used to look at it like that. So I get that logic, but I don't see that logic anymore. I see them as playing the long game. So right now, they are doing Project 2025, and that's their mission. Their mission isn't to win the next election or anything like that. Their mission is to get Project 2025 put through as much as possible before 2026. And the reason that they think like that is they know Donald Trump is not going to, no matter how much 2028 merch they push out there and all this other kind of crazy crap, they know this man is not going to last that long. So they're
Yeah.
looking at it as like, hey, we are on like a time crunch right now. We got to do as much as we can. The government shutdown is the perfect cover for that, because while the government is shut down, you have Vote over here completely dismantling the government, completely taking away any social program to help anybody, red state, blue state, black, white, poor, farmers, not, it doesn't matter. He is completely like a one man, well, not a one man, but he got a lot of help, just completely gutting the federal government while we are in the middle of a government shutdown, right? So they're not even in session because there's no need to be in session. We need to be in the background dismantling the government, like completely pulling it apart. And that's what they're doing. They're using the government shutdown as a cover for that. And they're trying to get as much done as quick as possible before Donald Trump kicks the bucket. And right now, that's what they're focused on. They're not focused on an election. They're not focused on numbers or any of that other kind of crap. They're not worried about that. And once Donald Trump is gone, JD Vance is the one that's going to step up. But they need all of this stuff in place before JD Vance steps up. Because if Donald Trump leaves before they have that platform set up for JD Vance, it's going to be that much more harder, because it's already going to be a hurdle with JD Vance in the first place, but it's going to be that much more difficult if certain things are not in place before he takes the mantle. That's
So
what makes him more
what you're
dangerous than Trump is, because they are laying the groundwork for JD Vance. Like they're laying the groundwork for him. All he has to do is just step into it. Donald Trump
so
right now is just a useful idiot to help them get there.
what you're saying is that they're concerned about possible failure. So this is akin to a smash and grab. Like if
Yeah.
somebody
Mhm.
walked into a jewelry store, smash, grab, get the hell out.
Yeah, you need
Now,
to get that for the cops come.
yeah, yeah. So you brought up JD Vance, and Eric and I have talked about this, and I'm curious as to what you think about it. A lot of people are fearful of JD Vance, and I'm not. I'm certainly not looking forward to the prospect of JD Vance being president of the United States, even though it seems imminent. Um, how do you feel about JD Vance's prospects should he become president? Will he be? He can't be as effective as Donald Trump. Because he doesn't even
It
have people in his own party that likes him.
It depends. It really depends. It depends on how much groundwork they're able to lay before Donald Trump is out of the picture. So the more that they can do while Donald Trump is in the picture, the better off it's going to be for JD Vance. The stronger he's going to be, the more mechanisms he's going to have, the more power, authority, the less oversight that he's going to have. So it really, really depends on how much they can get done before JD Vance steps into that role. So
Well,
that's what it depends on.
the thing to consider about all the things that Donald Trump has done, almost all of them are executive orders. and all
Yeah.
executive orders can be flipped like this by a new president. So they're not permanent if a new president comes in and says, we're done with that. Secondly, if what happens on 2026 goes like we expect, that they would at least lose the House to the Democrats and maybe the Senate, that pretty much makes the Republican president, if in 2026 we got control of the House and the Senate, that makes the president impotent
Yeah.
because there would be more oversight at that point because there'd
Mhm.
be nothing but investigations and there would be
Yeah.
no power to pass anything. So they better fucking hurry because 2026 is looming and they need to
Mhm.
get it done before then. But
Yeah.
understand that anything they do isn't going to last because it's all executive orders and that can all be taken apart in 2028.
Well, it could last if they lay the groundwork ahead of time. So when you look at right now them gutting the Voting Rights Act, when they're basically taking away the right for women to vote, which is what they're trying to do, just like boom, you automatically eliminate 50% of the population. So it is about gerrymandering, but it's also we have 300 million people, right? That's voting. We can take like a good 100 million of those people out of the way, like that. So then, how do we start chipping away at the rest of the people that can vote? A lot of people don't understand when they look at Russia and other dictatorships. These are sham elections. These are not real elections, and that's what they're trying to implement right now. So certain things like that, if they can get that done on the Supreme Court level, um, then it just makes it a little bit more difficult for us to push through in 2026. So I think that it just really depends on how much they can do before that time. When I see people talking about Gavin Newsom and who's running in 2028, I just want to pull my hair out because it's like, look, we need to get there first. So our focus needs to be on protecting the vote, protecting the people that are going to vote, and getting out there and doing what we need to do in 2026. Why are y'all focused on 2028 right now? That we need to stop them, and our best chance of stopping them is preserving our right to vote, protecting ourselves so that we can vote, and getting to 2026. 2028 isn't even a thought on my mind right now. It's not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And I made a prediction with Eric. I said, by virtue of Gavin Newsom, now this has nothing to do whether or not I want him to be a candidate or not, but by virtue of history, a track record, somebody who was a front runner 3 years before the election, I've
Yeah.
never seen them end up being the candidate. Too much time, too many things happen, too many things change, people emerge, people go down in flames. So to even try to think of who's going to run for president in 2028 is an absolute waste of time. It's a fucking folly. We
No, and
don't
look,
know. So
he is like aging. Anyone who is in this type of situation that Newsom is in, it ages you. It wears
yeah,
on you. It's a lot to take on. We saw how Obama looked when he went in versus how he looked when he got out. And he was fit. He exercised every day. He ate right. But he looked old and gray and worn when he left. That's how much of a weight it is to carry. And I can see that taking an effect on Newsom already. That energy and the way that he is able to push and inspire people right now, like that's a really, really great thing. But that is a lot to keep up until 2028. And for anybody that is laying their hat in the ring right now, they just can't do that.
I had my 5 year old granddaughter over this weekend for 2 days, and I aged about 10 years. I can't even handle my granddaughter. She just, it's just, she's constantly giving me a hard time. And it's my fault because I told her about how we give each other a hard time. We're sitting in the car. We don't want her on my phone because no screen time. So we said, let's just talk. And she goes, let's tell jokes. And so she tells a joke that's a kid joke. It's not really funny, but we go, oh, that's good. And then it's my wife's turn to tell the joke. So my wife tells a joke. She's just trying to create it in her head. And Junie goes, well, that's really good, Grandma. That's a good joke. And then I told a joke. Then I told a joke that was a real joke, a knock knock joke. You know, the one knock knock, who's there? Orange. Knock knock, who's there? Orange. Orange who? And then I say knock knock banana, and she says banana who? I said orange. You glad I didn't say orange again? And it's a dumb joke. And she just sits there and looks at me. She goes, "Grandpa, that's not funny. That's not funny at all." And
I
I'm going,
think
Jesus.
she kicked you out of the cool kids club.
She kicked me out of the cool kids club. But like you were saying, you know, when you're in the battle every day,
Hmm.
it does wear on you. I mean, for somebody like me who sits here and talks about it, I don't really have the pushback and the stress that other people have that are in political positions. But it does take its toll, and you know, I think ultimately the Democratic nominee will emerge in the last year or two, and that'll be the obvious choice. It could be anybody from John Ossoff, who would be a great possibility. Could be anybody
Yeah.
really. It could, you know, who
Um,
knows? Everything changes. Could be Pete Buttigieg, even though I don't think he'd be the best choice right now because of his age and because of the fact he's LGBTQ. Not because I care, but because apparently this fucking country is racist and sexist and misogynistic and shit.
hmm Also, leadership could change and that could look different. We could have younger leadership, you know what I mean? Like we, I think as a whole, independents, Democrats, and Republicans are tired of Schumer at least.
Oh yeah.
I think the Republicans, outside of the guy that wants to take Jeffries out, but I don't think they really mind Hakeem Jeffries like that. I think they like the racist tropes that they can use as a punching bag towards him, and they realize that certain lines he's not going to cross as far as like Israel and PAC money and all that other kind of stuff. So I don't really think they mind him. I think they just like the racism and using him as a punching bag. But for Democrats, they don't want to see him in that position. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Adam Swarwell just said like, "Hey, when Democrats take back the House, we're going to do, what did he call it? A crime commission." And what I liked about that was it's something different and it's fresh. It's outside of the judiciary committees and all that stuff. And it's really catchy. It sounds like something a Republican would say, "Ooh, a crime commission." You know what I mean? Like it just sounds like something you could put on a bumper sticker. Like they like to govern off of bumper slogans. There's really no, I don't know how to say it. There's like no definition behind it. It's something really quick you can remember and you can repeat it. You don't really have to know what it means. You're just saying it. I do know for him to come out and say that this is what we're going to do, to know that they're behind the scenes and they're already planning for that, we could see a change in leadership. Because if that's not something that Jeffries is on board with, and you get some young blood in there, and we're seeing like younger and younger people running, they could get his butt the boot and they could really do some things in there. So I'm looking forward to not just the presidency, but having some people in there with some fight, some people in there that gonna kick their shoes off and go at it. And right now we're not getting that. So that could change as well in 2026. I'm looking forward to that.
Are you getting a feeling that we're getting an influx of younger people? I know we've got three elections coming up in 2 weeks, maybe in
Yeah.
November, and we've got the governor's race in New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill, who is a younger woman, a veteran. We've got Mondami in New
Yeah.
York, and we've got potential Democratic governor in Virginia. I have a feeling. I was talking to Eric about it, and I said having Mondami win or Mickey Sherrill win in New Jersey wouldn't be crazy because it's Democratic largely. But if they win by a whole shitload, this is
Yeah.
bound to send a shiver down the spines of those spineless fucking Republicans.
Yeah. It should send the message to Republicans, but Democrats as well, because
Yeah.
already in position, you already have the name recognition. You know, your bank account's pretty swole right now. For you to continue to take, especially APAC and PAC money, it's just greed at this point. because you don't need an abundance of money right now. You're taking it because of greed. And when you do that, you prioritize your donors over the American people. So even though behind closed doors, these people, they know what's right. They know who they should support. They know how to fight. I know for a fact that Hakeem Jeffries knows how to fight. When he walked, you don't have to come knock on my door. I'm going to come up out of my office and I'm going to address you right here, right now, up in this hallway. And I'm going to tell you to shut your mouth while I'm talking. That is somebody that knows how to fight. But he can never just take it there because in the back of his mind, he got his AIPAC money, so he has to reel it back. He can't say anything bad about Israel. He can't say this. He can't say that. And if you're not willing to let go of that money, you just need to just step aside. You don't have to leave Congress, but you are not in a leadership position. You are
Yeah.
not in a position to play a leadership role. And to do the right thing would be to step back. I don't think that he is going to step back. So somebody else needs to kick him back. That's just kind of how I look at it. I want bad to happen to him. I feel so bad about somebody planning to take him out. Like, dang, that's horrible.
Well, yeah,
But politically,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. But last week we had 3 interviews, and Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries, Gavin Newsom. They were all asked about AIPAC, and they did some Bojangles pap dancing around that shit. Cory Booker says, "Well, yeah, I do get that, but it's so small." And they said, "Well, it's $800,000." Yeah, but compared to everything, it's not that big. I think we have a huge problem in Congress with AIPAC, and it's
yeah,
not because I care about I'm worried about Jewish people or even Israel. I think anytime an outside country has money in the pockets of every member in Congress, virtually every member,
yep.
that is a problem for
It's,
security, for decency. And, I suggested something, and I don't know if it's something that could ever get done. But if we could promote the idea of saying, listen, if you take AIPAC, we're not voting for you. I don't give a fuck who you are. We're not
yep.
voting for anybody who takes AIPAC. And then see what happens. And then, of course, everybody say, well, you're anti-Semites. No, I'm anti fucking Bibi Netanyahu. I'm
Yeah.
anti Donald Trump. And if the government of Israel is going to behave the way it currently behaves, I say we give them no money. We don't give them money so they can give free health care to their people when we're possibly losing it. It's fucking ridiculous. And I'm embarrassed and I'm disappointed in Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries, and even Gavin Newsom because he tiptoed around it too.
Yeah. I don't, and you know what? When you see that, then it's just a reminder that even so much as asking them about that, that they instantly get put in their place because they know they better not step out of line and say
Right.
anything against Israel. I don't even use the qualifier that I'm not anti Semitic or whatever, because if I am talking about innocent women and children and you're going to try to weaponize being anti Semitic against me, don't do that because you are trying to clutch your pearls and make it seem like, I don't know, just trying to intentionally twist what I'm saying when anything happens that's pro democracy in this country, these are the same mofos that say George Soros, George Soros, George Soros. These are the most anti Semitic people I have ever seen in my life. And I
Yeah.
don't put disqualifiers out there when I speak against Benjamin Netanyahu because I don't have to. I'm speaking about the innocent people that he's blowing up just because he can and because he wants to maintain power and because he wants to stay his butt out of jail. And you want to George Soros the protest, George Soros Antifa, George Soros any and everything, and then you want to come to me for being anti-Semitic? Fuck you. I'm sorry,
Well,
but
and
don't
it's
do
all
that.
about it's all about the distraction and distortion that all Republicans and all narcissists take. Perfect
Yeah,
example is with the ACA. They want to cut the subsidies to the ACA because the Democrats want to give $1 trillion to have health care to illegal immigrants. And that's not true. It's not even close to true. There's one little thing that says if an illegal immigrant comes into an emergency room and is on death's door, they will get they will get taken care of, and then the government will subsidize the hospital, not the illegal immigrant. They've taken that out, saying, oh, they're given free healthcare to illegal immigrants. This is what they do. If you speak badly of Benjamin Netanyahu or what's going on with Israel and Hamas, you're immediately an anti-Semite. Well, that's not fucking true. That's not
No,
true at all.
yeah,
Uh, it's just
but
how they play the game, and it's lame actually.
yeah, but you know that's how they have been able to trip Democrats up previously is by saying, oh my gosh, like clutching their pearls about any and everything, right? And then Democrats have to look, well, that's not really what I meant. Or anytime before we speak, we have to say, well, I'm not this and I'm not that, however, or but this. Like we have to give all these qualifiers and all of these disclosures. And they don't have to do that. They just get to come out with their talking points and say what they mean and mean what they say. And I think that we really need to stop like watching what we say around them. Like, no, it is what it is. If you're going to come at me on 10, I'm coming at you on 11. I don't have to like prep you for what it is that I'm getting ready to say. You're going to take what I'm going to say and you're going to just deal with it however the heck you want to. But I'm not going to qualify what I have to say or kind of soften the blow of what I'm going to have to say. I used to be like that. but
Well,
Donald Trump 2.0 kind of changed that a little bit. Maybe, he tariffed that part of my personality. I don't know.
he certainly had an impact, but there's another culprit in this whole process. Um, Somebody says something against Israel, Republicans say, "Oh, you're an anti-Semite." It would be easy enough to say, "Yeah, fuck you. That's lame. Don't even do that." But then in the middle of that, you've got the media that comes out and says, "Oh my God, such and such an anti-Semite. He said this. What are we going to do? This is horrible." They just magnify the whole thing and make it
Yeah,
worse and change the narrative of the whole thing, making it as if it's really happened. It's like the journalist comes comes up to some person and asks the question, "So, are you still beating your wife?" How do you answer that if you're not beating your wife? Well, no, I never beat my wife. And then they say he denies beating his wife. That's the
mm-hmm.
fucking game the media plays.
But we know how to combat that though. Because you remember with Jimmy Kimmel, it's like, oh my God, look at the horrible things that he said about Donald Trump. Instantly, play that clip, make it go viral, show the whole thing. People will see that. They understand. They recognize that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we have to not be afraid of the media twisting things, making it look different. Like if we allow the media to if we had to watch ourselves because we were afraid of the spin that the media was going to put on it, there would have been no King's protest. You know what I mean? Because they were making it look like we were just the most evil, god awful, George Soros backed, Hamas sympathizer, America hating, demon blood, baby drinking people on the planet, right? And so
Yeah.
we couldn't say, oh my gosh, well, if all of us go out there, how's the media going to spin this? No, well, they're going to say whatever the hell it is that they're going to say, but we're going to do what it is that we need to do. And I think that we have to do that with our words as well. They're going to spin it. They're going to say whatever the hell they want to say. They're going to chop up clips, but they're going to do that anyway. So
Yeah.
we just say what it is that we have to say and keep it pushing. And I think that's the best way to deal with them because while we are wasting time worried about our image, they're not. And they're continually going and going and going and going. We can't keep up with them when we are sidetracked or slowed down with watching what we say, how we say it, how people are going to take it, how they're going to hear it, what kind of spin are they going to put on it. Anybody got time for that?
Now, also, you are kind of a consummate activist. A lot of people claim they're activists, but you are in a true sense.
And
You've
I
been
don't
in
even
the
claim to be.
protests. Well, I mean, you don't claim to be one. I identify you as such, but you're out in the middle of the protests. You were even in an ICE detention center for a period of time, a short period of time, but a period of time nonetheless. When you heard what was going on with No Kings and 7 million people or more people showing up, you had to be pretty proud of that. After all the things you've done and gone through with protest and such, that had to give you a little confidence boost, or am I wrong about that?
It did, but I kind of have to watch how I say that.
Why is
um,
that? George Soros told you not to?
no, because it's different. And I'm trying to think of like, because I am proud and I am happy. And if I went to a No Kings in Japan, and if I was in America, I would have went to a No Kings in America for sure. Um, but it's different and I have to say this because if I don't, my people go look at me like I'm crazy after we film the podcast. But it's different. So the the party atmosphere of the protest when it's majority white people is different than if it would have been like a majority of like black people at that protest. It would have just been completely different. So it's nice to see that 7 million people are allowed to protest and not be attacked and not be like genuinely afraid of what's going to happen to them physically just by being that many people in one space. But when white people do it, they get to go out there with their frog costumes and they sides and all of they. I see some of the best sides ever. They get to have their Trump displays and Trump's head on a stick and all this other kind of stuff. And it's not looked at as threatening. We could have done the same thing and it would have been considered a threat. Like they're threatening Trump. These are terrorists. But they were allowed to do it. And it was looked at as a civic duty. So they got to just kind of like party, kick it, have a good time, and then just go home. So I
I
think
talked to
that
some people. I
I
talked to
think
some
that
people.
I think that it
Yeah.
helped people realize that they're not alone. And
Yeah.
it helped some people who were like soft Republicans or maybe independents. It kind of like got them activated and it motivated them to do what it is that they need to do. It's just a part of me that feels sad that more of us could not have been a part of that because if we were a part of it, it would have killed the vibe a little bit, if that makes sense. And so I
Well,
see like a lot of people on social media, like, where are the black people at? It's just a bunch of old white people out here. And it's not like people are sprinkled in there, especially if you are in like New York City and California and stuff like that, you have a more diverse crowd. But in other areas, it just would have been different. So I'm glad that it happened. So people were motivated. People have hope because sometimes they do feel hopeless. That hey, isn't MAGA is not a majority. You know what I mean? And you would
no.
think all these millions and millions of people online would show up to counter protest, but it kind of helped them realize like those are just bots or maybe keyboard warriors or maybe they look like the young Republicans look like. They ain't about that life, you know, they just talking trash. So it took some of the fear out of it for them because people are scared. And so when they see the frog costumes and all of that other kind of stuff, it takes the fear away from them. And so I think in that way it was good. I just wish that we could have been less afraid and more part of it, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that right or not, but
Well,
that's
I've talked to some people that were out there. Sea Temptation was in Chicago, and they had 250,000 people in Chicago. And I
yeah,
said, first of all, they're saying it was only old people. She said, that's ridiculous. That's not true. It wasn't just old people. And even if it was old people, that should scare the shit out of Republicans because those are the ones
right?
that are voting for fucking Republicans. And I said, did you sense, I asked her, I said, did you sense there was far fewer people of color out there because they're holding back because they want to keep, they know that it could be considered more violent by the racist. And she said, she said, well, we had plenty of color, people of color. I mean, see, Temptation is a black woman. So I don't know if they were represented as fully as they might have been, but they were
Yeah,
certainly part of the protest. They were certainly part of the protest. The thing I'm thinking is what they did with that protest, where it was kind of a party and kind of funny. I believe that was part of a strategy
yeah,
because they wanted to go, Donald Trump and everybody expected George Floyd protest and burn in cities and all that stuff, and they were kind of counting on that. So by taking the tone they did with that just shot that all to hell. and it gave them no opportunity uh, to bring in troops and create violence. Secondly, I
Yeah.
think it had a lot to do with a lesson we've learned as of late, and that was the best tact against Donald Trump and other narcissists like him: make fun of him, make him look foolish, make him look stupid, and they certainly did that.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to flip the narrative when there's like certain like Chicago, DC. I love protesting in DC. New York, where you have like more um, diverse protests. However, you have more diverse community, more diverse law enforcement, and different things like that. So it's not as I don't want to say it's like not as diverse all over. And I
Right.
think
No,
that
I get that.
they were focused on certain areas. And of course, they put that in the media, which for me, it worked against them because Jesse Waters, that little prick, he was saying like these were like these liberal white women and all this other kind of stuff. And he even talked about his mother going to a No Kings protest, right? But then you have
Yeah.
Fox News and Donald Trump and the rest of the ilk saying these were not really Americans. These were just radical left, lunatic, George Soros funded people. But at the same time, you're saying it's a bunch of white people out there, right? So are you saying that
Right.
these white people, in particular, these older white people and these white women are not true Americans? But at the same time, Stephen Miller is saying that this is America. You know what I mean? So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot on the messaging on that. I wish that we would have been more representative, but I understand why we weren't. Because when we are out there, whether we are in costumes or not, it's easy to flip the narrative and make it look like we're violent. It's easy
Yeah.
for people to go out there and agitate and start trouble. And they can't really do that when we're not really like the focal point inside of that protest. And I think that with the majority of white people protesting, this administration, they don't know how to handle that. They don't
Yeah.
know how to deal with that because they know that you can't just go into a middle of like 200,000 people, predominantly white or that's being perceived as white, and just start bombing and tear gassing and pepper spraying and rubber bulleting this whole crowd of people like they
Yeah.
did during the Floyd protest. They would never dream in a million years to do what they did during the George Floyd protest, during the No Kings protest. And they don't know how to handle that. They can't flip the narrative on it. They can't make it seem like they're violent. They can't get a grasp on how to show these a bunch of old white people on television, but then at the same time say how dangerous Antifa and George Soros back they are. They don't know how to make that all fit together like they could do if it was a bunch of like brown and black people in that crowd. They don't know how to handle that. They can't do it.
And I think when they came out, Donald Trump said, nobody's going to go. It wasn't a big deal. It was
You know,
all
it hurt
old people. It was all white people. It just sounds so lame and pathetic. I think even Republicans realized, please, motherfucker,
his feelings
that's
was
just
so hurt.
dumb. What's that?
His feelings was so hurt. Whole thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that was the point, mess with his head and make him feel small. And so now he has to come back with something like building a ballroom or bombing these
I can
fishing boats. You've heard the stories of him bombing the fishing boats, and you also heard how he's going to take away money from Colombia. I don't even know how much, if any, money we give him, but people wondered, well, that came out of the blue. That he's now mad at Colombia, but it didn't come out of the blue because the Colombian president said, his name is Petro, he said Donald Trump is a murderer because one of the people that were killed on the boats that he shot down is somebody from our country and is just a fisherman that was having trouble with his engine. Donald Trump is a murderer, and that got into Donald Trump's ire. And then, of course, he does what he does. He goes after them harder and more egregious. I'm going to take away all your money. You're just nothing but a drug country. That's what he does. And it's starting to look pathetic, even more pathetic than it always has been. And I think some people that thought Donald Trump was a good person and a good candidate, are now finally seeing the true side of Donald Trump, and they don't know what to do with that.
Well, they call him here where I'm at a war criminal and a serial killer. Like that's what
Yeah.
they call him
Yep.
because this is true. Like that's what they call him. And part of our protest here is asking the government, like, why are you going to America? Why are you doing business with him? Why are you sitting down with him? Why are you talking to him? Like the people here don't want him to do that because of the immigration crimes and atrocities that he's committed in America. So when you see Japanese leaders going to America and you see them on television, it looks like you're normalizing what he's doing. It looks like you're okay with what he's doing. And so, like, they're protesting here. Stop doing that. Look at what he's doing with immigrants. Like, he's literally trying to ethnic cleanse America. And
Yeah.
you're normalizing that. Which, side note, it is so strange to be in Japan and protesting for this administration trying to ethnic cleanse America and the crimes that's being committed against immigrants, and seeing people at Kamala Harris's book tour acting a plum fool about Gaza. They have absolutely no problem with the atrocity that's going on in America, because I don't see them tripping on Trump and protesting him, and every time he goes somewhere, they mouths running. But Kamala Harris, they got the smoke for Gaza. And yes, we do stand up for the people of Gaza, but we have to speak up for the people at home too. And they're completely overlooking that. Yeah, I'm in Japan and we're protesting for the immigrants in America.
Right.
It's strange to be here and to see that happen and not see these people having a fit about what he's doing with immigrants in America. That is mind blowing to me, to be here protesting something that's going on in America. But the people, well, not all of the people, because there's a lot of people in America that care. But when you have these far leftists in America protesting for Gaza, but they have nothing to say with him kidnapping and disappearing immigrants off the street.
Yeah.
That one I haven't been able to like sort in my mind, but it's kind of wild to see that happening.
It is. We're going to be wrapping things up, but I just wanted to ask you, you're going to be back home roughly 2 weeks. What do you
Yeah.
think, with what you know about what's going on here, what kind of things do you think are going to happen over the next 2 weeks? You've been pretty good at prognosticating things. What do you think is going to happen between now and the time you come back to the States?
The first thing that's going to happen is P. Diddy's going to get released.
You really think so?
Yeah, yeah. That's getting ready. When you have people inside of the White House saying that it's going to happen by Tuesday of next week, that means it's in the work. Pretty much all they got to do is sign paperwork. So I see that happening. I think that when it comes to, gosh, what's that liar that he just released?
George Santos.
Santos, yeah. So when it comes to Santos, Diddy, and anybody else that he's partnering right now, it's just ramping up for him to kind of like normalize it, take away some of the shock so that he can, next let Maxwell go. I think he's amping up to that. And that's why I'm pretty much set with Diddy being released, because that's just the next amp up, because he likes to ramp it up and up and up and up. And I think his peak on that is going to be Maxwell leaving. So that's why I'm pretty confident with Diddy. I'm just eyeing November 1st. So I know a lot of people on November 1st are talking about the EBTs and the cutoffs there, but people are overlooking the fact that also people are starting to do like their benefits enrollment, and that stuff starts rolling out on November 1st. So we can sit here and we can say, your premiums are getting ready to like double and triple. You're not going to be able to afford your health insurance without the ACA. And
Right.
I don't know if people are not paying attention, if people think that we're being dramatic, or in some cases, people don't even realize they're on the ACA. But that's when people are going to start being aware that they are going to be affected by that. So one thing that we're not going to see is Democrats caving at all, because they know that people are getting ready to start getting that benefit information and the premium details in the mail. On top of that, um, that the SNAP program is getting ready to be disrupted. Um,
Right.
so I think that is going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be going on around those two issues. Um,
I've said this shutdown, the deadline is going to be November 1 or a day or so before, because the Republicans are now realizing they are the ones that are taking the beating. They tried to double down and triple down and blame it on the Democrats, and it's just not working.
there's a lot of
The
talk about we need to
GOP
start getting.
senators met with Donald Trump today, no doubt trying to figure out how to get this done because they know they're going to be murdered if this happens. You take away people's food, it's going to get ugly. You take away their health care, it's going to get ugly, and it's going to cost them dearly. They would want to give in to the Democrats at this point, but Donald Trump keeps saying no, and they're too much of a coward to stand up to him. So I'm sure they got him in the office trying to figure out a way to pull this off. I think the Republicans are going to do everything they can. They're starting to break a little bit to get this CR finished by November 1 because they know how bad it's going to be if it goes past then.
I think that their mindset is looking at the optics and not towards like what it makes them look like because they don't care at this point. I think they're looking at the optics of how is this going to affect their Project 2025 agenda? Like,
Yeah.
how big of a wrench is it going to throw into that agenda? Because people think that Republicans are spineless and they're never going to tell Donald Trump no. They tell him no all the time. When they tried
Yeah.
to do that, there was like right at the beginning of the shutdown, they were trying to like pass certain um, legislation to make carve outs for certain groups like the military and other individuals like CDC, so that and air traffic control, so that they're still getting paid during a shutdown. And Till
Yeah.
was just basically like, "No, we ain't doing that."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they do tell Trump no when they want to. It's just that the stuff that he is doing right now, they cool with that. They want him to do that. What they don't want is for it to affect their Project 2025 plan. And I think they're going to look at the optics of that. With the White House, as far as like them not wanting pictures taken of that, we never had to see what that looked like in the first place. Typically when you
Yeah.
have projects like that, because I had like a extension to like my backyard, and there was like all this crap that they put up around it to keep people from seeing in the inside and all that stuff. And I'm from Vegas, so we like build and tear down buildings all the time. You never see that, like unless they want you to see that. And I think
Yeah.
that Trump wanted us to see him tearing the White House down. And I think behind the scenes, people were like, hey, they didn't have to see that. How is this going to affect our MAGA base looking at us like the dictators that we are, like the fascists that we are? Is this going to enable what it is that we're trying to do? So I think they're
Yeah.
looking at stuff that he's doing as how is it affecting their plans, not us, but how is it affecting their plans and if it's going to slow them down, because they need to get as much done as possible before JD take the reins. The more they get done, the better off for him it's going to be, which is crazy. So I think that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. But it's going to be a lot of talk about November 1st.
There definitely is. Well, also, thank you very much for coming to us from Japan, of all places.
Yes,
That's amazing. Technology is amazing.
it
Um,
is, isn't it? Because
it is. It
it's,
really is.
it's
Uh,
like
so,
early in the morning here.
keep in touch with us between now and the time you come home, and then when you come home, let's sit down and talk again and see what's
Yeah.
going on and how much of what you said came true and what we see for the future going forward. So be
When
careful over there. Have a safe
when you
flight.
get when you get the notification that Diddy is out, be sure to text me. I don't care what the time difference is. Just let me know.
I tend to agree with you about Diddy being out. Donald Trump doesn't care about how it's going to reflect on him or is too stupid to understand it. But there's one main factor with the Diddy situation that almost guarantees him to get out. He's got a lot of money. and Donald
Yep.
Trump wants it. That's what it's going to be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if he does it either. I wouldn't at all be surprised. And I kind of hope he does, because that is just going to destroy the Republican Party with everything else that's going on. It's not going to help them much. It's going to be horrible.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but Santos, like that restitution and all that stuff, even with Diddy, all the restitutions, fines and stuff that he's supposed to pay, you don't have to pay none of that stuff anymore. When Santos first got out, or before he went in, he was saying that he would do everything he can to pay back his victims, blah, 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 blah. Today, he said that if the government makes him do it, then he will do it.
Right. I won't do
So
it unless
he,
I have to legally.
and these was Republican donors that he stole from outside of the veterans and his family members. He stole from Republican donors. So if y'all
Yeah.
still giving Donald Trump money, say, you know what? How about I not donate? You take my part out of George Santos's cut. Make him pay you.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us from this long distance. Be safe over there. Have fun. Maybe feel a little more relaxed over there. Give our best
Yeah.
to your family. And let's definitely talk by the time you get back. If not before, if something comes up, by all means, you're more than welcome anytime. So thank you for
No
doing
problem.
that. And you also sent my grandkids some stuff that I haven't gotten yet. I haven't gotten down to the post office, but I will. And I thank you very much for that. You're very generous, and that was nice of you to do.
No problem. I don't know if your son listens to the podcast or if his wife listens to the podcast. The candy, I sent that much candy to a lot of children. So you're not the only ones now. This Halloween, let them
That's
have
right.
at it.
That's right.
Birthday to
That's absolutely. Well, those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.